Imagine this. The year is 1944. Bombs rain down on Budapest, Hungary, thunderous detonations shaking the world above. Hidden below street level in the cramped, blood-smarting air of a hospital basement, a baby wails into existence, his first breaths woven with fear, hope, and chaos. This is Thomas Peterffy's origin, the beginning of a story so unlikely, so cinematic, it begs to be told in the flickering dark of a cinema, or the gripping, faceless flow of a YouTube video. It's not just a story about money. It's about survival against impossible odds. It's about how a penniless Hungarian refugee, branded an enemy by his own government, would one day build an empire that shattered Wall Street's century-old traditions and changed the way the world trades forever. Act 1. Shadows over Hungary, childhood under oppression. Peterffy's childhood unfolded in the gray ruins of communism. His family, once wealthy landowners, lost everything not once, but twice. First to the shifting borders of World War I, then, a generation later, to the nationalizing claws of the Soviets. His young life was stalked by hunger, suspicion, and fear. "We were basically prisoners there," he would later recall. His mother perpetually cycling through government-mandated jobs. Fired, reassigned, fired again, often wet with worry that they would starve. But young Thomas was resourceful and restless. He hustled chewing gum smuggled in by classmates, slicing each stick into 5 smaller pieces and reselling at a markup few adults could match. "Where is your communist conscience?" his principal would demand, finding out. But Peterffy only wanted to survive. He soon led platoons of neighborhood kids in scouring bombed-out buildings for scrap metal, dragging, with immense effort, an iron bathtub through the streets for a bounty large enough to briefly feed his impoverished family. The grinding wheels of the system barred him from university. Children of enemies of the working class were unwelcome. So he learned surveying to plot the ruins and bones of a city rebuilding itself, even as he dreamed of freedom across the ocean. Act 2. A daring escape and the first cold Manhattan winter. Hungary in the 1960s was cracking, slowly. Through a fragile loophole, Peterffy won a short-term visa destined for West Germany. He did not return. Instead, he made his way to the American consulate and at 21, bought a plane ticket to the only place that ever promised a rebirth. New York City, December 12, 1965. Peterffy arrived in America with a suitcase, a slide rule, a surveying handbook, and a portrait of his ancestor, plus roughly $100 in his pocket. He spoke no English. His father, who'd fled Hungary years before, gave him that $100 bill and the sternest of immigrant blessings. Make something of yourself. At night, Thomas moved between bleak apartments in Spanish Harlem, surrounded by strangers, settling into an alien world that felt icy and unfriendly. But he was finally free. He had nothing, but for the first time, he could dream. Act 2, Scene 2, the hum of the Olivetti. He soon landed a job at a highway engineering firm in Queens, earning a modest wage and drawing endless road diagrams for the expansionist juggernaut of 1960s America. The work was tedious. Tables of data, slide rules, lines, everything by hand. One day, a hulking gray machine, an Olivetti Programma 101, one of the world's first desktop computers, was rolled into the office. It was intimidating, unused, and covered in dust. Nobody knew how to program it, so I volunteered. I figured computer language would be easier to learn than English, Peterffy later joked. At night, he dissected the technical manual, thankfully light on English words, heavy on formulas, and in days, he'd built a catalog of calculation programs. Now, what took 20 minutes by hand was solved in 30 seconds by machine. Soon, draftsmen queued up every morning seeking the magic cards he'd coded, transforming new highways from foggy calculations into elemental certainty. Peterffy did more than make himself indispensable. He tasted the power of automation, the seed for a lifelong obsession. Just as Peterffy seemed to find dangerous comfort, the Vietnam War cast a shadow. Induction into the U.S. Army loomed. A lucky diagnosis, thyroid trouble, gave him a last-minute deferment. But his money was running out. Wandering the city, desperate for a future, he stumbled across the admissions department at New York University, begged a place, and hustled night and day, scraping together credits with borrowed dollars and the goodwill of strangers. A chance introduction led him to János Arányi, a fellow Hungarian émigré running a Wall Street consulting firm. There, Peterffy built software models for the titans of finance, programming, translating stacks of code into the valuation of stocks, bonds, and commodities. Soon he was brought in by the formidable Dr. Henry Jarecki at Mogul Metals, a jungly gold and silver trading house, to invent tools for modeling the wild price swings in the precious metals pits. It was, unknowingly, the technical apprenticeship that would make him a legend. Act 3. The Market Maker, War on Wall Street's Old Guard. In 1977, with $200,000 saved from years of careful living and shrewd work, Thomas Peterffy made his boldest move yet. He paid $36,000 for a seat on the American Stock Exchange, AMEX, and used the rest to found TP & Company, trading equity options as a one-man band. The Amex was then a din of barely controlled chaos. Trades screamed out, prices scribbled by hand, riddled with inefficiency. Computers were not only absent, they were forbidden. But Peterffy, now a Wall Street alchemist wielding code, brought meticulous computer-calculated fair value sheets, modeled on the Black-Scholes formulas, onto the floor. He cut his sheets into squares and tucked them into his pockets, each loaded with the true prices for every option he might trade. But imagination, no matter how genius, clashed with the old school. To his rivals, Peterffy was wacky, eccentric, a foreigner with strange ideas and an even stranger methodology. He lost massively on his first over-leveraged options trade, a reminder that numbers alone don't tame risk, but he was undeterred. No more speculation, no more luxuries, just strict adherence to my models, he swore. By 1979, Peterffy had hired other mathematically minded traders. His operation became Timber Hill Incorporated, named after a rural road where he found peace. He established an unfair advantage, as one observer put it, the ability to price options, and by extension, risk, faster, more often, and more accurately than anyone else. He was changing the very DNA of the market. The next act in Peterffy's story is one of relentless technical innovation. By 1983, he had built and introduced the first handheld computers for trading, crude tablets, bristling with wires and simple touchscreens. These devices allowed his traders to carry, recalculate, and update prices in real time, untethered from paper. Other traders jeered, the exchanges balked. The Chicago Board Options Exchange even passed rules banning analytical devices from their sanctified pits. Peterffy pressed on, wielding code like a blade. At the New York Stock Exchange's options division, where handhelds were banned from the action, he mounted color-coded displays against the walls. Traders learned to read the flashing stripes like a new language. Peterffy's code whispered in color. In 1987, the technological arms race peaked. Peterffy built a fully automated system capable of placing trades directly through NASDAQ's central machinery, no human intervention required. When forced by NASDAQ to use a traditional keyboard, he hacked a solution, a spider-like robotic hand that typed at inhuman speed whenever his algorithms dictated it. At the time, this was almost science fiction. In reality, it was the beginning of high-speed electronic trading, a concept that would eventually kill off the trading floor entirely. The crash of '87 and global expansion. The 1987 stock market crash exposed the weaknesses of the old system and tested Timber Hill. Peterffy, always 2 steps ahead, lobbied for cross-margining between clearinghouses and led technological efforts to modernize risk control and market structures. As the world's exchanges began to digitize, his empire leapt borders. Timber Hill became a dominant force, making markets in New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, as well as Germany, Switzerland, Hong Kong, and beyond. Peterffy used handheld computers in the pits, radio-linked his systems across continents, and built a central pricing engine that managed risk across thousands of contracts in real time. The company often faced resistance, local exchanges wary of foreign wizards and their alien methods, but success followed wherever the lights of electronic trading switched on. Act 4, the creation and rise of interactive brokers. By 1993, Peterffy realized the same technologies that powered Timber Hill's trading could offer market access to ordinary investors. He split the firm in two: Timber Hill for market making and, in a stroke of branding clarity, Interactive Brokers for electronic agency trading. Interactive Brokers' vision was elemental: deliver the lowest costs, widest access, and most advanced tools to investors of all stripes. It's as if Peterffy sought to level the playing field, empowering individuals, hedge funds, advisors, anyone with the tools the professionals used. Through IB's Trader Workstation platform, clients could execute trades in dozens of countries, in every imaginable asset class, at lightning speed for pennies. He slashed commissions, refusing to sell order flow as other brokers did. IB's relentless drive for transparency and efficiency left rivals scrambling. An engineer at heart, Peterffy focused on automation, cutting out armies of back-office clerks with code, and continually refining tools like probability lab, securities lending, and risk analytics. IBKR goes public and ups the stakes. In 2007, Interactive Brokers went public, the largest brokerage IPO in years. Peterffy still controlled the vast majority of shares, keeping the company free from Wall Street's short-term obsessions. By the 2010s and 2020s, IBKR was handling millions of trades each day for clients spanning over 200 countries. Its platform became the backbone for family offices, hedge funds, independent advisors, and ambitious retail traders. Foundational innovations like smart order routing, real-time risk analytics, and access to global product classes were industry firsts that competitors would spend a decade copying. Global expansion followed, with footprints across Ireland, Budapest, Switzerland, Asia, and Australia. The company even headquartered its Central European operations in Hungary, paying back a debt to his homeland. Peterffy recognized the unique strengths in his home country's logic and workforce. As of 2025, Interactive Brokers boasts billions in revenue, nearly $600 billion in client equity, offices in every financial center, and the legacy of shaping modern electronic markets beyond recognition. Beneath the surface, Peterffy's story is not just technical triumph, it's human. He's a man of willful eccentricity, famously frugal, equestrian, solitary in luxury, fascinated by efficiency. His political views, shaped by early oppression and his faith in the markets, made headlines in 2012 when he authored and self-financed television ads warning of creeping socialism, drawing both criticism and admiration for their blunt, homespun candor. America's wealth comes from the efforts of people striving for success. Take away their incentive, and you take away the wealth that helps us take care of the needy, he thundered, his accent sharpening the message. Yet by the 2020s, he had stepped back from media controversy, focusing on philanthropy in science and education, while still exerting profound influence on financial policy and regulation. He lives between massive estates in Connecticut and Palm Beach, Florida, rides his horses, and remains at heart the same unyielding code writer from the ARMEX floor. Never really retiring, always seeking the next inefficiency to crush.